All right, Randy, it's such an honor to be with you here, and thank you for accepting my request for being on this CISO Confidential podcast. Randy, you've been a senior security leader, a seasoned senior security leader for a while now. You've seen some really large companies. You've been with Coca-Cola super early of your career. You've been with large insurance companies. Now you're with ManpowerGroup, which is the largest staffing company in the world. In today's podcast, let's start with something that generally CISOs fear, and that's not something that they like waking up to. Let's talk about a hack.
The incident was actually brought to us by a client. So
Okay.
we had been compromised, and that compromise then exposed us and utilized us to then try to compromise a client. So the first thing you have to do when you get that information in is really you need to validate it.
Sure.
The other big concern that you have is while you're trying to validate it, you want full transparency with the person who's bringing you the information.
Don't shoot the messenger.
Right. Well, because you want them to tell you everything that they know, but you may also not want to share that information or show undue panic or concern or problems because, again, in this particular situation, it was a client. When you finally realize that this is actually happening, the biggest thing you have to control is the panic. It's not only your panic, it's the panic of the team that's trying to resolve the issue or identify the issue further. It's the panic of the senior people that you have to notify that this is going on. And it's really about how do you very quickly translate the tidbits of information that you get and get that back to the appropriate people. Either get information back, you might be taking information in from the FBI that you're trying to feed back into your team so that they can consider that as part of the analysis that they're doing. You may have to take technical information and translate that into business impact up to your leadership teams and things of that nature. So really it's about how do you very quickly translate, how do you get a regular cadence to keep everybody calm and allow the right people to be focusing on the right things. While there are a lot of people firefighting and they have the best of intentions, I will say, that does not necessarily mean they're the most valuable. The biggest learning that we had through that whole process is what we identified was the bad actors were actually in our email system. So what we had to do was shut down our email because they were monitoring conversations that we were having about trying to troubleshoot the problem.
Shutting down email for any company, small or big, would be pretty crazy.
Well, we also just talked about how important communication is. How do you now communicate without email?
My goodness. So you tried to block the emails. Obviously, people were using text messages. They were using different means, maybe social media to communicate with each other. How long did it last? And when did you get back? And did you communicate it to your CEO, your board before actually doing that?
No, we did not communicate it with them before we shut it down. It was time sensitive, so I kind of took the approach of I'll beg for forgiveness later. Okay. So we took the action. We believed that we couldn't be wrong for doing the right thing. While the actions were occurring, I was notifying people of what was going on. So we didn't have the luxury of waiting to get everyone to sign off and kind of give their okay. So I made the decision to shut it down. We ended up shutting it down. It took us probably 14 hours to completely recover because we ended up not being able to be sure that we had everything completely out. So we had to rebuild and then migrate into a new system. And again, it was not a small email system, so it took a little while.
Wow, half a day. That would be a lot of issues there.
More importantly, it was all of the night. So
okay.
Because nothing ever happens once you start your day, unfortunately.
Totally. And the last question is what happened afterwards? Once this happened, what was the awareness in the organization? Did you get more budget?
It affected everyone in the company, and the irony of the whole situation is it divided the company. So half the company wanted to know what we had to do to make sure it never happened again. The other half of the company wanted to know why we allowed it to happen in the first place. But again, it was very interesting to see how quickly the organization, and it did not matter the level of people in the organization, people were very, very divided. They either wanted to know why we allowed it to happen or what could we do to make sure it never happened again.
Did your budget go up?
I'm going to say unfortunately no, but
really?
Yeah. So.
Fair point. Well, I'm guessing they trusted your ability to still cruise and navigate through more future challenges with the same budget.